One of the best things about the Walla Valley is nature. Whether you're a longtime resident, new to the area, or just visiting, there's always somewhere beautiful to explore. And we're going to do just that. Find out how to get started today on Hometown. Are you someone who enjoys nature up close and personal? Or do you prefer observing it from a comfortable seat behind the wheel? Either way, there's no question we live in an incredibly scenic and beautiful part of the world. From high desert and mountain peaks to big rivers and bustling forests, there are incredible places to stop, explore, and soak in the natural world. John Muir was an early advocate for wilderness preservation. Today, he's widely known as the father of our national parks and once wrote, "Into the forest I go to lose my mind and find my soul." He was so right. Sometimes I get so caught up in the things of the mind that I disconnect from the things that renew my heart. We often overlook the importance of taking time to wander off the beaten path, but not today. Let's go wandering, an essential ingredient in the remarkable story of us.
Okay, Black Snake Ridge Road. Is this the spot?
Yes, we are here on Black Snake Ridge Road. So good to see you, Eliana, this morning.
See you too. So tell me, how did you, what's one of your earliest memories hiking?
Wow. Well, I know that my parents down in California used to take us on Sabbath afternoons to a place called Descanso Gardens. And we would walk around there, and I remember taking a nature class out there as well. So,
No way.
yeah, I was like 7 or 8 years old.
And you and your siblings would go out there?
Yeah, we'd learn the names of plants and flowers and things like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's your initiation. What got you into what you do now as far as
I don't know how I got interested in backpacking, but around 5th grade, 6th grade, I really got interested in that. And so hiking and backpacking was something I loved to do my whole life. But it was about 15 or 16 years ago that I had an epiphany. And life is busy, but I realized that if I was willing to get up early on Saturday mornings, very early, I could have a 3 or 4 hour block of time. And so I started doing that.
Wow.
And it became something that I really enjoyed. So I would pretty much go every week, get up about 5, leave at 5:30, and then hike from like 6 to 9 or 6 to 10. And yeah, come back, be home by 10 or something like that. So
What's so magical about that 3-4 hour block of time?
well, I love watching the morning happen. So, especially in the winter, you're starting to hike in the dark. Sometimes it's pitch black. The moon might be out. And then as you hike over the next hour, you see that entire transformation to dawn and morning, and watch the sun come up. It's glorious.
Yeah.
And so and then the summer, even if you get up at 5, you'll still be in the light in the sun.
Is
So,
the saying true, the early bird catches the worm?
I know on these roads, and I spend a lot of time hiking gravel roads in the foothills of the Blues. And these roads are public roads, but at that time of the morning, it seems like they're private. Many times I don't see a single vehicle during the whole 3 hours.
Wow.
So it's just me and the deer, sometimes the elk, rarely the coyotes or bear.
So that morning moment of like solitude is the worm that you're looking for.
Yes. Well, And it doesn't have to be total solitude. I'm always happy to have company on my hikes.
Do tell me more about that. My dad loves to get your morning emails and go out occasionally with you. I know you are like the one who puts together a lot of group activities. Do you have a regular time? And
So it all developed somewhat organically, like I was talking about 16 years ago, and I would invite a few friends, I'd send them an email, and that email list now is turned into a list that has like 200 people on it. So anyone's welcome to be on my email list. And usually, typically a day before a hike, they would get an email saying which road I'm going to hike on and what time I'm going to leave.
okay.
Even though there are a lot of people on the list, I would say an average morning is 2 or 3 hikers.
Okay.
Every once in a while we have a bigger group, but it's not real often. A few times a year I'm hiking by myself. But I think the largest group I ever had was like 15 or something like that. But like I said, 2, 3, or 4, that's a fairly typical morning.
Okay. Awesome. And you guys start really early in the morning too.
Yeah, well, I just found that the morning is a good time to be out here. Like I might have mentioned, even though these are public roads that we're hiking on, many times I don't see a single vehicle the whole time when I'm out here. I just see elk and deer.
That's beautiful.
So, yeah, speaking of roads, back before I started doing this on a regular basis, I pretty much only hiked McKay Grade, or some people say Mackay Grade.
Okay. Is that visible from this road?
It's a little bit to the south, but it's just, you can't actually see it. It would be down in a ravine, but yes, we can see the area. And it occurred to me, well, there are a lot of other roads. And so then I got excited about exploring on the map. And so within the next 5 to 10 years after that, I pretty much hiked every gravel road between Pendleton and Dayton, in fact, beyond Dayton.
No way.
Yeah, and it just became fun to explore each road and each adventure. And sometimes you'd meet funny people, but most of the time it was totally fine.
I love that. So you were certainly somewhat of an expert on the trails in and around Walla Walla Valley.
So I would say I'm an expert on the gravel roads in the Blue Mountains.
I love that.
And sometimes we go on actual trails. For example, at Mill Creek, there are a lot of wonderful trails. Indian Ridge Trail.
Okay.
And there's some other connected trails there that are also really nice.
I'm going to have to check that out.
Not too far a drive from Walla Walla.
Okay. So now, having recruited people on your morning adventures for the last 16 years, you must be somewhat of an expert of getting people who are on the fence to take the leap. What would you tell people? Like, why hike? What's the draw?
Wow, there's so many things to say. I think at some level, it just makes everything in your life kind of calm again. If you have anxieties or worries, up here everything seems to fall into perspective. And I think it helps to lessen ruminations and those kinds of things. I'm not sure if I can always give you the mechanism, but exercising, the incredible sights that we see, the vistas, the views, they just constantly inspire me.
Yes.
Sometimes I tell my hiking companions my heart is singing. I get rather, what's the word? Yeah, well, it's very exciting to be here, and it's hard to find the right word sometimes to express it. Look at that vista there, Eliana, isn't that gorgeous?
That is beautiful. What are we seeing here? You were mentioning
we're seeing, we're looking south, and boy, I'm trying to remember the name. I don't think I can remember the name right now. I should have reviewed the geography around here, but we see Clicker Mountain.
Okay.
And then we also see Mormon Grade. And in that far ridge is Pikes Peak Ridge. And between that is McKay Grade.
Okay.
But yeah, each ridge, each road has its own character, but they're also very similar.
Do they kind of feel like old friends?
They are old friends. I love how you said that. Absolutely. When I come back to one that I haven't hiked for several months, sometimes maybe half a year, it does feel like an old friend. reconnecting with an old friend. And one thing about coming back at other times and other seasons is each season has its own character, each season has its own delight. So when we come in the winter, oftentimes there'll be snow, and I sometimes do have kind of like hiking crampons, and that's helpful.
Okay.
But I, year-round, just go in tennis shoes.
Okay.
In the winter, I wear wool socks with my tennis shoes because sometimes with all the snow, what I find is for 3 hours, it's totally fine. If I were going to go backpacking, I would obviously need to do something different. But and I usually carry my pack, things that just help me to be ready for whatever season it is. So
That's good. Do you have an emergency kit or?
well, what I have, like right now in the summer, I also have extra water.
Okay, very good.
I always try to have a granola bar too. It's really only happened once or twice in my hiking. I usually don't eat anything during my hikes, but there was one particular hike that we did a long ways, and we were running on the way back, and I got that feeling, I guess, that you get in a marathon when you have a low blood sugar. And so I try to be prepared for that, but more important to be prepared for the weather. And in the winter, I always have an extra dry something that I can put on, and maybe a Gore-Tex wind coat or something like that.
That's good to know. So what do you feel like you get to capture out here in nature, on the trail, that you don't get in other aspects of life?
Well, I will say, just, being here in Walla Walla has made me realize how much we have just right here in our backyard that's just incredibly precious. And I have thought many times on these hikes, this is more fun than going to Disneyland. This is more fun and it's so much cheaper. Yeah, just being outside in nature in God's second book is just the best therapy, the best medicine. I don't know how else to say it other than those simple things, but I never tire of coming out here. It's simple, it's inexpensive. I guess it's only gas money. And the things that you use for hiking are much cheaper than you might if you were into other kinds of sports. So yeah, I think that often, like, wow, this is something really fun, and it's just right in my backyard, and it's just a half-hour drive away.
Yes.
Yeah, it's glorious being out here.
There's a thrill to experiencing God's nature firsthand.
Absolutely, absolutely. And it never grows old. I never get tired of it. Every time I come out, it's always fresh and new, even though I've been here before. It's just glorious. So
that's beautiful.
And when I come back at the end of the day, at the end of the hike, the rest of the day just seems to go so much better. There's just a vitality and an aliveness and a connection that I have to the rest of the day that I think is based on being out here in nature.
All right. Thank you so much for inviting me out here and helping me capture a little bit of the magic of what you get to experience.
Let's go hiking again. It's just a treat to hike with you, Eliana, and with everyone else. I love sharing hikes with everybody.
We will catch you on the next hike out in the Blue Mountains.
I hope so.
Andy, I'm glad that you're taking a few minutes to chat with me today because we have some amazing natural resource areas here in the Walla Walla Valley and up in the mountains beyond. What kind of places are accessible for people?
It's a great question. So right outside of town, we have the Walla Walla Ranger District. So that's part of the Umatilla National Forest. So the whole national forest spans between Washington and Oregon. It's about 1.4 million acres. Whew. So it's really big. I mean, that's like, for reference, about twice the size of Yosemite National Park.
Yes.
So yeah, it's a large national forest. It's sort of long and spread out, but that's spread among 4 ranger districts. And the Walla Walla district is sort of the second to most northern. So we are basically in the Blue Mountains from around Dayton down to about Interstate 84. So the landscape that's closest to town here. So within that, we have some really popular recreation sites like Jubilee Lake.
Yeah, that was the first one that popped in my mind.
Absolutely. I mean, Jubilee Lake is the most popular recreation site on the forest.
It's nice.
It is.
Really
It is great. And people love going up there. There's a popular day use area. There's a large campground where you can reserve sites ahead of time, which is really nice. But then we also, in the winter, we have Blue Wood Ski Area, which is
also really popular.
Also really popular and doing great things, and that's on the Ranger District. We have the North Fork Umatilla Wilderness Area, which is a more sort of primitive place to go recreate, and I can talk about that a little bit more.
Sure.
But we have a lot out there for people who want to do all sorts of things in nature.
Yeah, talk about those a little bit more primitive spaces like you were referring to.
Sure. Well, I mean, that's sort of, if you're thinking of Jubilee Lake as, the most accessible, developed, easy to get to sort of spot where there are going to be lots of other people probably, at least on a summer weekend.
Yes.
A place like the North Fork Umatilla Wilderness or the Wenaha Cannon Wilderness, which is on the Pomeroy District to the north. Those are going to have probably more rugged trails, less people. The idea of wilderness is that really humans are a visitor to that landscape, but don't remain there. And so, there might be creek crossings or river crossings that don't have bridges. There might be trees that are down over the trail. There might be some challenges in a more primitive way that are exciting for people who are up for that challenge, for sure. But you probably want to know what you're getting into before you go out for a long day.
My husband and I did some bike camp a long time ago. We were doing some backpack bike camping.
Okay.
And we went down to the Ranger District. We found the trails and everything. We knew where we wanted to go, but we didn't think about what might have happened over winter. And this was fairly early June. And when we got on that trail, there were so many trees down on the trail. So yes, that can happen.
Yes, it absolutely can happen. Yeah. And, we do the best that we can to maintain the trails. But, sometimes
this has been a particularly rough winter.
One big storm event can dump dozens of trees down potentially, and that takes a long time to clean up. So,
sure,
it happens.
But it was still really fun, and we were kind of rugged camping out there, which was enjoyable. So, talk about some of the ways that people do use this wilderness.
Sure.
Obviously, hiking, camping.
Yep. So, in a wilderness area, it's primitive modes of transportation only, or travel only, I should say. So really, hiking and horseback riding.
Yes.
Motorized and mechanized devices are not allowed, so there's no mountain biking, there's no dirt bikes or other OHVs, in the designated wilderness area. So that sort of adds to the mystique of some of those places where you really do feel like you're going to be out away from it all a little bit more.
You're disconnected from regular life.
Yeah.
Kind of exciting, huh?
Yeah. So whereas most of our trails that are outside of the wilderness areas on the Walla District are what we call multi-use trails. They're primarily single track, so they're not wide OHV trails or ATV trails. They're still just kind of like one lane, but most of them are open to mountain bikes, dirt bikes, equestrian horse riders, and hikers. So there's a lot of options there. Lot of options for people on really most of the other trails on the district outside of the wilderness. So the Umatilla Rim Trail is a popular one that's open to all those uses. And then in the wintertime, a portion of the Umatilla Rim Trail is also used for Nordic skiing and snowshoeing.
Yes.
Yeah. And then of course we have a lot of snowmobile trails in the winter as well.
Done that too.
Yeah?
It's really, really fun. Yeah, I mean, we don't own one, but if you have friends that will take you, it's always fun. So sometimes people feel a little bit intimidated about leaving their sort of regular life and comforts. What if they haven't been into these kind of sports before? How can we kind of set their minds at ease and let them know how to be prepared?
It's a great question. So in a place like Walla, a large town, a lot of active people, chances are they know someone who has some experience, doing things like that. And if they're really intimidated and they don't want to go out there by themselves, there's probably someone around, or an outing or a group trip or something like that where they could go kind of with company and not be totally on their own.
Okay, so take a friend or somebody that's done this before.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is, dress for the appropriate conditions. We can have crazy weather in the mountains regardless of the time of year, just because it's warm and sunny in Walla Walla does not mean it's going to be warm and sunny up at 5,000 feet in the mountains. It
could be stormy and very wet.
Yeah, it could be very wet. It could be hailing or snowing even in the summer. It happens infrequently, maybe, but it happens. So keeping an eye on the conditions. If there are any storms coming in, dressing appropriately, making sure that your shoes fit and aren't going to give you blisters, things like that. Checking the map to see, is there going to be water available? Is it going to be really hot? In the Blue Mountains, a lot of our trails go sort of out along these spines of ridges. So, they're very scenic. They give you great views in all directions. They're also very dry.
Yeah.
And so if you're out there,
sun protection.
Yeah, water, sun protection, hat, things like that, because you don't want to be out there all day and realize you're at the end of the ridge and you're out of water and now you have to walk back. So being prepared for those sorts of things is really important.
So having a good plan.
Yes.
And also knowing what you're going to do if you're out after dark.
Absolutely. I always carry a headlamp with me when I'm out there, even if I have plans to be back at my car, before dusk. It's not a bad idea. Just get a little headlamp, stick it in your pack, and you probably won't need it, but if you do, it's really nice to have one.
Yeah.
And then, especially if you're going out by yourself, always letting someone know where you're going. So in case you are overdue, there's someone who knows what you're getting up to, and you don't have to wait until you miss your shift on Monday or something before someone comes to look for you.
Someone can come and look. Yeah, for sure. So lots of fun stuff to do.
Yeah.
What do you enjoy most about the wilderness?
Ooh, what do I?
And I don't mean it doesn't have to be wilderness in the technical sense, like any of these, park areas.
Yeah. I really like trail running.
Oh, yeah.
So I like getting out there with some friends from town and just going up into the mountains and going out on some trails with our dogs. And this is a great time of year to do it. The snow's just come off. There are a lot of wildflowers out. So that's one of my favorite things. I like backpacking as well. And, there's a lot to do. I have tried dirt bike riding. I'm not very good at it. I have some coworkers who are great. That's not me. So, I have never ridden my dirt bike on any of our trails, but I'm glad that folks out there enjoying it.
You're more likely to be on foot.
I am much more likely to be on foot. Yeah. We have some pretty challenging trails. I mean, there are people who come from all around to ride their dirt bikes on our trails because they're scenic, they're challenging, they get you to some cool places. But most of them, for people who are on dirt bikes, are they're not like beginner level trails.
Yeah. So you need to know that you have the right level of experience.
Yeah.
And you can go down to the Ranger District and ask questions and look at maps, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So the Walla Walla Ranger District is at 1415 West Rose. So come in. We're open normal business hours Monday through Friday. We have maps on the wall. You can purchase maps there. You can ask questions about current conditions and things that are going on. Later in the summer, obviously, there's a high chance of fires happening on the district, and that's one of those things that you want to be aware of if there's a potential for a fire affecting where you might want to recreate, because we might have some trail closures or things like that, and that's a great place to get that information.
So what's your favorite place then in the area that you're responsible for?
Ooh, my favorite place. That's a tough
too
one.
hard of a question.
It's
Some
not
favorites?
It's sure. I mean, I have many favorites. I think in the early season, especially when the wildflowers are blooming, there are some spots out on the Umatilla Rim Trail that are really great. That is one of our, I think, easier trails. It's not quite as totally easy, flat, beginner friendly as the Jubilee Lake Loop Trail, but the Rim Trail gets you out into some cool spots in the forest without having huge climbs up the side of a mountain or things like that. I think it's pretty family friendly for what it is, and it kind of winds through the forest, and then it gets out into some really dramatic viewpoints out over the wilderness, and it'll be kind of carpeted with wildflowers, big views. That's pretty nice. It's hard to beat those nice days out on the Rim Trail.
Excellent.
Another spot that I like a lot, for a more strenuous outing is the Indian Ridge Trail
Mm-hmm.
that actually goes right along the edge of the Walla Walla Municipal Watershed,
Yes.
so up in Mill Creek. And so not only can you see where our water comes from, which is cool, but it's just, again, these kind of big views out
Yeah.
over the landscape, really dramatic scenery, and a very challenging trail. It's only a few miles long, and it gains a couple thousand feet in elevation. So,
So be ready for it. Be a little bit
be
fit.
ready. Yeah, you want to be pretty fit for that one. It has some very steep sections, but it's a really rewarding trail.
Sure. Well, Andy, thanks. This has been really fun. Love the chance to chat with you.
Thanks for having me on, and yeah, this is great. Appreciate it.
But ask the animals, and they will teach you, or the birds in the sky, and they will tell you, or speak to the earth, and it will teach you, or let the fish in the sea inform you. Which of all these does not know that the hand of the Lord has done this? In his hand is the life of every creature and the breath of all mankind. Job nails it in chapter 12. This is God's classroom. There's so much to absorb when we get off the beaten path. Nature teaches us to ground ourselves in the beauty of his creation, helping us remember that we are created in his image and that he cares for us on an intimate level. I feel such gratitude for the natural beauty we enjoy in this region, the fresh air, the beautiful seasons, nooks and crannies just waiting to be discovered. Whether you're a driver, rider, walker, hiker, or mountain climber, you will always find a beautiful place to explore and find your soul. Let's go! See you next week on Hometown. Do you love uplifting stories of people in our community as much as we do? When you give a gift, you make local, uplifting, community-focused programming like Hometown possible. To find out how, just use the QR code or visit our website at the link in our bio. And don't forget to like and subscribe to hear more great stories about our valley.